I'm standing inside the convention center. This area is where all the donated clothes are sorted and folded in piles here. Girls extra large, girls medium, and so on. These volunteers have been at it all day long as donations do keep coming in. FEMA says it is aware of the needs here and is going to try to ease the pressure by transferring hundreds of the evacuees to other shelters as soon as they're open. Now, Elaine, the mayor of Houston told us today the city plans to open up 3 more shelters some point very soon, but no details so far about when and where they might start accepting those folks.
Mark, as you know, FEMA also says that up to 30,000 people may be displaced in the aftermath of Harvey. Do you have a sense yet of how effective the federal response has been?
It's a good question. I mean, FEMA has more than 1,000 folks here trying to coordinate things. I've seen folks walking around with FEMA shirts. So they're definitely a presence on the ground. FEMA has made a real point of saying we are not going to allow this place to become another Superdome that we all remember from New Orleans and Katrina. This place is accepted now almost double what the original capacity was. You heard in Nora's piece the various complaints here, and some of those complaints, I think, these city officials and folks who run this new shelter would say are legitimate. The question, though, is, look, you got so many people crammed into a small space. You got to keep order, and you got to now that you've rescued these folks, you've got to give them food, water, shelter. You've got to give them a cot, a place to sleep, or otherwise, you know, tempers start to fray when people are tired, hungry, grimy, and also not sure what they're going to go home to, if anything. So all of these are genuine concerns, and the city has to figure out a way to meet them.
So meantime, President Trump, as you know, was in Texas on Tuesday. I'm wondering, Mark, do people there, were they even aware that he visited the state? If so, what was their reaction to that?
I don't think I heard it mentioned by one person today here that the president was here. I think the needs here are so much more immediate. Where am I going to get my next meal? When can I get into the bathroom and look at the size of that line? I mean, these are like fundamental issues that people have to deal with.
Right.
The whole big picture thing about the president coming to town and taking the tour and promising a federal response, that's just not where their heads are at this point. They are trying to look after themselves and their families and their kids and their grandparents, and that's the focus in this building and will be for days to come.
I mean, you talk about, you know, how tempers can start to fray after a few days, and I wonder specifically, Mark, when you spell out those very basic human needs that people have right now, is there one overarching concern that they're communicating to you?
That's a good question. I think people need to be fed and given something to drink. I mean, that's a basic. They have a roof over their heads, so they're not exposed to the elements. So that's a good start. You need a place to sleep. Well, they don't have enough cots. I mean, they were thinking 5,000. Now they get roughly 10,000 folks in here. The mayor told me that they've got, they asked FEMA for 10,000 more cots because they expect the number of people who need these cots to only rise. So once you give people a place to sleep, then you got to feed and water them and somehow try to get them a shower or some sort of approach to hygiene that makes them feel a little better about their situation. But I also talked to a Red Cross coordinator here who's told me when I asked him, I said, hey, look, do you think this could go on for weeks, even months? And he said, yeah, I do. I mean, I think the needs here are that great. Whether these folks stay here as a shelter, a housing of last resort, or go someplace else is still to be determined. But these needs, as epic as they are, as epic as this catastrophe is, aren't going away anytime soon. And as the floodwaters keep rising and as more people are rescued, the needs will only get bigger as the more people start heading into shelters like this.
Enormous challenges ahead. Mark Strassmann, thanks so much.